So welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. We are back on the launch pad, and today we're going to learn about a very important part of rocketry, and that is called staging. It's what allows us to really get further out than we could have otherwise. The best way for me to demonstrate this is just to show you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to throttle up by pressing the left shift key. When I do, you'll see that my throttle gauge will go from 0 to 100. And when I'm press the spacebar key in a second, I'm going to have 3 rockets firing. These 2 on the side are called boosters, and my main rocket's right here. And at the same time as those begin to fire, these things that are sort of holding me upright are going to drop away. I'm going to press T real fast, and that's going to activate my SAS. My SAS will help me keep pointed straight ahead, heading straight upwards basically. If we look to the left, we can see that my 3 rockets are firing, my 3 engines are firing, and 2 of them are running out of fuel a little bit quicker. Those are my 2 boosters. They have smaller fuel tanks, so they're going to finish first. While we're sitting here waiting, I want to point out a couple things about we can do while we're flying. One of them is that we can use the V key, and when we do, we can change views from auto to orbital. So this is what we look like coming into orbit. One called chase, where we're chasing behind the rocket. And if I click one more time, I have one called free, where I can right click and I can change the view myself. We are quickly running out of fuel in my 2 boosters. We're about 10,000 feet up at this point. I'm sorry, 10,000 meters. And in just a second, they're going to run out. When the fuel runs out, we'll see that the engines will stop firing because they have nothing left to burn. There they go. I'm going to press the spacebar key, and I've jettisoned those 2 boosters. And the reason why I do that is because it makes me lighter, and I have less things dragging on the side of the rocket to slow me down. My main engine is still firing. It's running out of fuel pretty quickly itself, so in a second it's going to stop firing. Let's get a nice view of the surface of Kerbin while we head up. We have just passed 40,000 meters, or 40 kilometers. Okay, we've just run out of fuel in the main fuel tank, so I'm going to press the spacebar again. And I've jettisoned that piece of the engine. I got 1 engine left, and I'll fire that. And I'm going to go ahead and press the M key. The M key is what's called map view, and I can use the right mouse button to click and drag to get a better view, and I can use the zoom wheel to zoom in and out. And what this is doing is it's showing us our actual path. This AP stands for apoapsis, and that is the furthest point that we get. And you can see it's rapidly moving further and further away. If I press M to go back into the normal view, you'll see that I have just run out of fuel on my last fuel tank, and I'm going to press spacebar one last time. And now it's just my capsule. If I press M to go back into map view, I can see that I still have a long way to go, because I am, this one, traveling along this path. I'm going to reach my furthest point, the apoapsis, and that's going to be 3,222,000, and it's shrinking a little bit, but about 700 meters. So very, very high up. I'm going to speed up time by pressing the, oops, it's something I cannot warp time if I'm still throttled up. So even though I don't have any rockets left, my throttle is still at 100. So I'm going to press the X, and the X cancels out all your throttle. And I'm going to speed up time by pressing the period. Now I'm going at 5 times, 10 times, 50 times speed, 100 times. Now keep in mind, I'm not actually changing how fast I'm moving. I'm just making time go by faster. And there's 1,000 times speed where I hit my apoapsis, my furthest point, and I come back down towards Kerbin. I'm going to go ahead and press escape, end my flight. And you can see that my highest altitude achieved was 3 million meters. Very, very high up. So let's talk about how to create a rocket that has stages like this. Let's go back to the vehicle assembly building. Here we are back in the hangar, and you can see the same rocket that I had out on the launch pad. And one thing you might notice is that over here on the right-hand side, this was also showing up while we were flying the rocket. And this is really the heart of what's going on with our staging. So it starts from the bottom and it moves upwards. And you'll see at the very first stage, I have several things happening. If I mouse over this little engine-looking picture, you can see that these engines right here on the boosters, they turn green. So that means that on my very first stage, or really the fourth stage, those will fire. These will fall away, and my main engine, if I scroll down a little bit, my main engine also fires. So all three of those things happened when I pressed the space bar for the very first time. So after that, I fly, fly, fly. Eventually, the boosters run out of fuel. And I hit the space bar again, and the third stage initiates right here. And you'll see that these things right here on both sides of the boosters, they are highlighted because they activate when I press the space bar, and they shoot or jettison the boosters away. Then I have some more fuel in my main engine. It keeps firing, firing, firing. It runs out of fuel. I press the space bar again for the second stage, and you can see that this whole part turns green because that whole part is getting jettisoned away. When I press the space bar this time, you can see that this turns green because the engine, which is sort of hidden right now, is going to fire. And then my very last stage, the zero stage, ejects everything except for my pod, and I have the pod. So that is the staging, and I initiate changes in the stages by pressing the space bar. So let's go ahead and build this thing. I'm going to go ahead and press New, and let's get started. Okay, here we are with a fresh start in the hangar. First thing I should do, and I didn't do this last time, shame on me, is I need to name my ship. So let's call this the Eames, I'll say Mark III, because I made a few already. So, first thing we always do is a pod, a place for our Kerbonauts to go. And I think we're going to stick with the command pod MK1 this time. It's a good one to start with. So I'm going to put that up there. The very next thing that you really shouldn't forget is what's called the ASAS thing. That's what allowed me to stay pointed straight up without having to worry about flying the rocket, which becomes very difficult as you move forward. And that's right here, the Advanced SAS module. I'm going to put that right underneath. Okay. While I'm thinking about the module, one thing I forgot when I did my last one is my poor Kerbonaut, Jebediah, had to plummet back down to Kerbin, and he probably went splat. So I'm going to go to Utility. I'm going to go to the next page so I can grab him a parachute so that he doesn't have to go splat. He's a brave Kerbonaut, but he doesn't need to die. Okay, and now we're going to start doing our staging. We're going to make our very first piece of machinery that allows us to stage, and that's what's called a decoupler. If a couple means to come together, decouple means to go apart. So I am going to go to Structural. I'm going to go to the next page, and I have this thing right here called a stack decoupler. I'm going to use this several times on this rocket. So I'm going to bring it over here and place it down. You'll notice that I already have two stages. I have the parachute stage, which should be the very last thing that happens, and I have the stage where I eject everything except for the pod, and that's that stage right there. As I add more things, my stages will increase. For this very last piece of my rocket, I'm going to grab a smallish fuel tank. So I'm going to go to propulsion, and I'm going to use this FLT 400, and we're going to stick that right there, and grab the LVT 45. This on its own would go ahead and shoot, but I'm not done yet. So I'm going to go ahead and move it up a little bit, and I need another decoupler. So I go back to Structural, next page, and I grab the stack decoupler again. And when I attach it to the bottom of the engine, it's going to automatically hide that engine with this piece of metal. So now you'll see that we're up to 4 different stages. The last thing is the parachute, then the piece that ejects everything except for the pod. Before that, we have that last engine firing, and before that, we have this decoupler right here, which is going to eject our main rocket. So let's keep going. I am going to add some more fuel tanks. I'm going to the next page here, and I'm going to grab this FLT 800. This is a nice long fuel tank. I'm going to go back and grab another one of these small ones, T400. And let's raise this up a little bit. Going to grab another engine, my LVT45. So now we have one piece, the main rocket, and I need to add my boosters on the side. So let's go to structural, next page, and I have these things called radial decouplers. This was a stack decoupler. This is a radial decoupler, and that's going to make sense in a second. So I'm going to click on that, but to make things simple for myself, I'm going to go down here and activate symmetry mode and do it for 2, which means that this is going to automatically add 2 of these things on opposite sides of the rocket. So let me get a better view, and I'm going to stick those right here. Because I had symmetry mode on, it automatically added the second one, which makes my life a lot simpler. I am going to go to propulsion, and we're going to grab, we'll grab this. And once again, you got to be it's a little tricky putting these things on here. I'm going to put, actually, you know what? I changed my mind. We're going to go to next page. Let's grab one of these longer ones, the T800. And okay, that's green, so I'm going to put that down. And it's still doing 2 automatically because I'm still in symmetry mode. And these need some engines, so let's go to propulsion. Let's add my T45 engine. And we are almost there. I'm going to add some nose cones to the top of these because a nose cone, which you'll find in aerodynamic, will make us glide through the air easier, and we won't have so much drag slowing us down. So I'm still in symmetry mode, so if I put one on here, it'll automatically add to the other one. Okay, I'm getting closer and closer. The last thing I need to add, I believe, if I haven't forgotten anything, are the launch pad helpers that will hold me up so I don't fall over before I launch. And those, I believe, are in utility. Maybe they're in structural. They're in structural, and they're right here. They're called launch stability enhancers. And I'm still in symmetry mode, so it's going to automatically do 2 for me. And I'm going to get a nice view on the side and click. And there it is. There is the Eames Mark III. Now we need to make sure that our staging is correct, and we'll be ready for launch. Before we launch, we want to make sure that our stages are set up properly. Nothing ruins a flight quicker than having your stages out of order. So let's start down at the very beginning. Okay, we have my 2 launch stability things that are going to fall away when I begin to boost off. I have the 2 booster engines, and I have the main engine. Let me scroll down so we can see that that is what's highlighted. So that's exactly what I want to happen. Those 3 things will happen the first time I press the space bar. The next time I press the space bar, what I want to happen is I want these 2 boosters to jettison away. And those are these things right here. You can tell the bars are sideways because it's shooting those tanks sideways as opposed to shooting them down. But what I don't want to happen is I don't want this one to happen at the exact same time because this main rocket is still going to be firing. So I'm going to add a new stage. There's a plus button right here above the 3. So now I have a new stage, and I'm going to slide that up to a new stage. So the first time I press the space bar, I fire all 3 engines. The stability enhancers fall away. The second time, I'm going to shoot my boosters away. The next time I click, I'm going to eject from here down to expose my last engine. When I press the spacebar again, that engine will fire, and you can tell it's highlighted. After that, pressing the spacebar will eject everything except for the pod. And the last time I press the spacebar, I will have the parachute deployed. I'm going to add one more thing to this that's just kind of fun. I'm going to go to utility. I'm going to grab some landing struts. And I'm going to change the symmetry from 2 to 4. And I'm going to put some landing struts on the pod so that Jebediah can land nice and soft on his landing struts. Oops, I meant to have 4, but only 2 showed up. Let's grab those. Let's make sure I have symmetry in 4 mode. Let's grab them again. I'm still in 2. Let's see. There we go. There's 4. Nice. Okay, so I think we are ready to give it a try. Let's go to the launch pad and try it out. Before I do that, I'm just going to press the save button to make sure that the Eames Mark III is saved. Okay, we're back on the launch pad. I'm not going to take the whole time with this. I just want to go through to make sure that our staging is working properly. I'm going to hold the left shift key to throttle up. I'm going to press the T key to lock in my vector straight upwards. And I press the space bar, and hopefully what will happen is these stability enhancers will fall away, and all 3 of my engines will fire. All right, so far so good. I'm going to pause while we burn off our fuel, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have just finished the fuel in the boosters. I'm going to press the space bar, and hopefully they will fall away. Perfect. My main engine is just about out of fuel as well. So when it's done, I will come back and we'll jettison that. Okay, and it is out. I'm going to press this. There she goes, and press the space bar to activate my last engine. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and pause while we finish this, and I'll come back as we're sort of hurling back towards the Earth. So I have finished my last stage, and we are hurtling back towards the Earth in the pod. And I'm going to speed up time just a little bit. When I get to, here we come, we're back down to normal time. When I get to about 25,000 meters, I'm going to press the space bar one final time, and that's going to deploy my parachute, which is going to help slow me down, because right now I'm going 2,500 miles an hour. Okay, I press the space bar. There's my chute. It's not going to open up fully yet. Okay, it's not going to open up fully until I get down to about 1,500 meters, but you can see it's rapidly slowing me down. Just having that drag behind me rapidly slows me down. I was going 1,500 meters per second. Now I'm going about 200 meters per second. And I think any minute now, the chute is going to fully open, fully deploy, and that's going to take me from about there it goes. And now I'm down to about 7.5 meters per second. I want to make sure that when I'm landing, I am somewhere below 10 meters per second. That's not going to be a problem. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the G button, and that's going to put my landing gear down. You can see it coming down now. And that way when I land, I'm going to have a nice soft landing on the surface of Kerbin. Unfortunately, night has fallen, so we won't really be able to see it as it lands. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. But you have just made your first multi-stage rocket. Congratulations. You are well on your way to being a rocket scientist. Well done.